Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Welcome again to a new session of State of the Thunder. This is the 7th recording. I'm very excited that I'm able to, and we are able to continue doing this. And hopefully the informations that come out from this are of any interest for anybody. Today's session is going to be mostly focused on ESR, our extended support release, because we are getting very, very close to release the new version 140, which is going to be available in 14 days. It's going to ship on June 24th, primarily the Firefox version. If we are very, very good and very, very lucky and nothing implodes, we will release it the same day or after a few days. That's not a problem. But we can start with a bunch of very recurring questions that we got from our audience on social media or on the support forum or on any other different places. Especially, we noticed that there has been a little bit of confusion recently as we started releasing monthly releases or the new release channel. So we can use this as some clarification. Anyone here in the room, feel free to jump in, ask questions, interrupt me, tell me that I'm saying something wrong. There's absolutely no problem. Or you can write in the chat if you don't want to participate. Once in a while, I will look at the chat and try to answer all the things in the chat. But the first question, very simple, very straightforward, is what is ESR? Why do you call it ESR? Probably everybody knows in here, and it's very redundant information, but ESR stands for Extended Support Release. Sometimes we call it ESR Release, which is wrong because it's Extended Support Release, but it's fine. ESR is what Firefox calls their yearly releases. Once a year, usually the first week of July or the last week of June, this extended support release is published, which is the only version of Firefox and consequentially Thunderbird, because remind everybody, Thunderbird is built on top of Firefox, is the only version that it's supported for a whole year. Supported means that throughout the next 15 months after release, this version gets security updates, some regression patches, something that if it's completely broken, we do the uplift and we fix it. We, in general, as Mozilla, Firefox, and Thunderbird, we do the same. If there are some security fixes that landed on Firefox, of course, we release the same point release version, and we publish those also in Thunderbird. I said 50 months because every time there's an ESR update, there's a new version, there's an overlap between the old ESR and the new ESR. Usually the overlap ends around September. So the new ESR is released in July, the old ESR is still supported until September, and then it's discontinued. So we give the grace period of trying to update and keep supporting the old version, especially for add-ons developers and all the other things. We're going to talk about add-ons a little bit later. Last year was an interesting year because for the first time, the ESR 115 has been supported and continue being supported for like an extra 8-9 months. This was due exclusively for Windows XP support. All consequential versions of Firefox and Thunderbird after 115 don't support anymore Windows XP because Windows XP is a discontinued operating system, is very unsafe. You shouldn't use it, but we know that for practical... Oh, it was Windows 7, Wayne?
Yes, Windows 7. XP was previously desupported.
Oh, great. Thanks for correcting me. So, yeah, Windows 7. Oh, my God. I feel so old. I thought Windows 7 was fairly new. That's fine. Yeah, so we know that for a lot of practical reasons, a lot of users cannot switch from their version of Windows. So Firefox decided to continue that support and releasing on 115 only with security updates. And we tagged along that I think it was the first time that something like that happened. But from this year, then 115 has been discontinued. 128 will last until September. And we're going to release 140, new version in June, on June 24th. if you're all confused about these releases, how do I know when a new beta is out? How do I know when version daily switches? What is ESR? How do you know when ESR is released? There's a very handy website that is primarily for Firefox, but is almost one-to-one with what we do, which is what train is it now? And I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show it to you. This is very easy, very straightforward, very simple. You can go to whattrainisitnow.com. And in here, the first page, it shows all the different currently available versions of Firefox. And one-to-one, these are the same versions of Thunderbird. We follow the same train. If you're curious about a more generic, what is the calendar release like for the next month, next couple of months, you can open the menu and go directly in calendar. And here it shows you all the version, every version, which ESR version matches, when it starts the nightly, when it starts the soft code, when it starts the beta, and when it's the actual release. You can tag along. But in general, the path for a release is always the same. When we code, the code developers, they work on something. We always work on a nightly/daily. In Thunderbird, we call it daily version. So in this case, we currently are in a 141 nightly. If you use a daily installation and you open the About dialog, you will see version 141 Alpha 1. Usually it's always Alpha 1. Then that nightly code, after a month, goes to beta and becomes 141 beta. Then that beta code, after a month or 4 to 5 weeks, is not always precise, it goes to release and it turns into a 141 release. As you can see, ESR is stuck on a version, and this is one of the point of confusion. Sometimes users that are not aware of being on an ESR cycle, they are on 128, then they update after a year, and the version is 140. And we always get these comments on social media, oh, the people in Mozilla don't know how to count. Is not that we don't know how to count, is that ESR releases are done once a year. During that year, the release channel, the monthly releases continue going, so the number continues to grow. And then the users on ESR, they only get the actual, usually are 14 to 15 numbers of difference. Sometimes, yeah, from 115 to 128 was like 13 numbers. From 128 to 140 is 12 numbers and things like that. So that's a point of confusion. Anyone wants to add anything? Any questions? Any doubts?
And one slight thing is that Firefox is shipping or supporting 115, but we decided not to, and so for Thunderbird, 115 is not being shipped, not supported.
Yeah. Yeah, you can
128 is the
see
current version.
exactly. In the ESR release of Firefox, they make a big announcement here. This is primarily for Windows 7 and 8. The last available 115 release for Firefox will match the old ESR discontinuing. So we're tagging along 128 and 115, and we'll match the new ESR version 140.2, which is going to be released on August 19. So on August 19, all the old 115 and 120 branches will be end of life. Is just the last month they're gonna release. They're not gonna have any new releases or any new updates. But yeah, like whenever you're confused about when things are released, when are we doing, what is happening, go to what train is it now, check the calendar. At the beginning, it might be a little bit confusing, but the dates are always realistic and always easy to follow. All right. And we have the same thing for the website. I don't know if I want to share this. Thank you, Luna. But yeah, let's share this also for the people that are watching this video. We have this website we really need to update. I want what train is it now for Thunderbird so badly. We the new code and all the
Yeah, that
things
would be
just
nice, but that's what exists now.
yeah. At least we have something. But yeah, we will it's in the never-ending list of things that we need to tackle and we need to do. But we will have a release documentation, like what train is it now for for Thunderbird as well. All righty. Next question that we have, kind of related. How do I know what release I am on? Like whether I am on ESR or not? That is visible in the About dialog. The easy telltale to know is when you open the About dialog, you check the version number. If that version number updates and changes every month, you are on a release channel. You are on the monthly releases. If that version number is stuck on, for example, right now, everybody on ESR is on 128 and you have the point release, 128.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. That is a representation of your version number where you are in the release channel. But also in the About dialog, we write at the bottom after the release version which release channel you are. If you are on ESR, you are on release channel, you're on a daily version. So everything is in the About dialog. And if you're still confused, you can check that number that you have in your About dialog with the What Train Is It Now website, just to have a little bit of clarity and peace of mind. This is a question that I got from a forum. People are wondering why we're pushing so hard for monthly releases. Why we always add ESR and then beta, and now we introduce these new monthly releases, and we're asking users to switch to monthly releases rather than leaving things as they are. Why monthly releases? Some users think that they're fairly similar to beta releases. So what is the difference? Why we're asking the users to switch to monthly instead of continuing the cycle that we always had? Anyone wants to try to answer this question? Wants to jump in on this?
I can take a stab.
Go for it.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know me, my name's Corey, and I manage the release operations team at Thunderbird. Yeah, so well, it's first of all, it's kind of also following suit with what Firefox does. You know, their main channel is a monthly release cadence. That as nice as ESR is, one of the downsides is that you only get bug fixes that are important, security fixes. You know, you don't get all the bug fixes, right? So as Alex was kind of describing earlier, like daily exists for a month, and then daily turns into beta, and it's actually 4 weeks, but beta lives for 4 weeks, you know, or a month. And then beta becomes the release channel, and each of those steps, each of those channels has more stabilization. So by the time we get to the release channel, we're confident that we have pretty solid stabilization at that point. And you get all the fixes that currently existed in beta, right? So you're getting a fix for everything. And so that's a huge benefit. Another big benefit, I guess that's bugs. So what else do you get? You get features. ESR only gets feature updates every year. Like it'd be a very rare exception that we backported or as we call it, uplifted a feature to an ESR, right? So the features that you're going to get in 140, you're likely not going to get any other features for another year if you're on the ESR channel. But that's part of, you know, ESR's stabilization process as well, right? So I would, if you know, you can admit that ESR is probably more stable than monthly releases. However, when you're dealing with an ESR channel, you have to update through 12 months of code, right? So the fact that you'll be able, if you're on the release channel, you're updating only through a month's worth of code. Less can go wrong in that scenario. Whereas, you know, if you're updating through 12 months of code on an ESR channel, from one ESR release version to the next ESR version, it's just a lot more code to update. So, you know, just the statistics tells you that you're probably going to have more risk of problems when you do an update. Yeah. So I think that hopefully answers the question a little bit.
Yeah, very good. Anyone else wants to add anything else? All right. Yes. Yeah, there's another thing that I wanted to add that that's a very good answer. Corey, that's pretty much all the main reasons. There's another like underlying reason that is somewhat like code maintainability or sustainability for the core developers on how to maintain specific features. So ESR is specifically targeted for those users that don't have the luxury or the capability of updating things every month. The classic example is an enterprise situation, someone that ships Thunderbird in their infrastructure, and you have like hundreds on 200 machines, and you want a release that is, for the next at least 1 year, you don't have to touch, and it's there and only gets security updates and security fixes. And then when you update to the other one of the new version the next year, you want a certain certainty that is not going to implode and break everything. And you can just do the massive annoying update of all your computers once, and then you're set for another year and you're safe. At Thunderbird, we never had the luxury of 100% knowing that the new ESR release compared to the previous ESR release is without bugs. There's never that certainty, of course, but in the past, we never had a good amount of beta users of a beta population to go through and use all the features that we build throughout the year before they hit ESR. So we never had proper feedback. And I'm not talking about using users as beta testers or using users as guinea pig. It's just the simple fact that we release a new ESR in July, we build a new feature in September, and the new feature doesn't hit the majority of our users until the next July. And then we start getting bug reports about the features that we built 9 months before or 10 months before. And now we need to go back to 10 months old code that we never had any report or had any issue. And then we need to figure out why these users now on ESR are only experiencing that. Having those monthly releases and having a larger population of monthly releases guarantees that when we build the features and it's ready and we release it, we have immediate feedback so we can fix bugs right away because the context is fresh in our mind. And that guarantees a much healthier and much more stable extended support release once a year. So it's all ingrained together and then tries to support each other. It's all beautiful and terrible at the same time. But these are like the various reasons. Yeah. Anyone else wants to add anything before we switch to the next question? Cool. All right. This is a question that I don't really know how to answer, but I have some guesses. But is general like, why is it called a release channel and not monthly releases? Do we know? Do we have any historical reasons from this? Like it comes from Firefox and we just tag along.
Yeah, so I can give a bit of an explanation. It's somewhat technical, but a channel is basically an update mechanism or a train, if you will, that you stay on once you've installed whatever particular release it is that you've installed. So if you've installed beta, you're on the beta channel. And that instance of what you have installed will only get updates to beta releases. And notice I'm using both the word beta and release and channel. Channel and release are not interchangeable in some context. So the channel is what determines what you get updated to, and a release we may refer to sometimes as Thunderbird release, and for the average user we use the term release, beta release, Thunderbird release, ESR release, but they are essentially channels.
Yeah, some users, I guess, they're confused because, yeah, like the release channel releases a new version once a month, so it's expected. Why don't you call it? We call it daily, so we release every day. Beta is because it's once a week-ish, and then we release monthly. So why don't you call it monthly release? But no, the actual primary channel is the release channel. It's called that way. It's confusing. Also internally, sometimes we call it the monthly release channel or release channel. Yeah, the monthly releases, things like that. We use that term.
Yeah, it is a little
Commonly.
confusing, and I think there is historical reason, but I don't have it actually at the top of my head. The release channel existed. It's existed before, and
Hmm.
um, so we reused that. But since it's our default release, it kind of made sense as well. Since we switched from ESR to release being the
Hmm.
default release, it's the release, right?
Hmm. Yeah, it's good. All right. Next question is, how much support will ESR get now that you're focusing on the new release channel / monthly releases? I heard someone saying, switch to monthly if you want that fixed. Type of feedback. Oh, that's not a good sentence. We should never say that. Okay, so ESR w- things will not really change much. We'll always do what we did in the past. The ESR will always get primarily security fixes and updates. During the first couple of months of the new ESR, we always do uplifts or backports to fix something that is broken that we missed during those months of QA or beta releases. Um, we never in the past sometimes we uplifted new features because they were almost finished and we only missed it by a month, and the half finished new feature was causing problems to the users in order to be usable entirely and to have the same good experience in Thunderbird. But we tend to not do that because it's very dangerous and we don't leave enough time to the new features to be consumed and be tested on the different release channels. So with monthly releases of the new release channel, ESR will not see a decrease on anything, on any attention, on any security updates. The secondary part of this question that I heard someone say to me, switch to monthly if you want that fixed. That has always been the case. We always kind of said, if you want new features faster, we invite users to switch to a beta release channel because that was only what we had available at the time. Right now, the monthly releases or the primary release channel is the best way to consume new features in a fairly stable environment. Granted, we started release channel a few months back. We're still learning how to have a solid process and how to ensure that things are working properly and we don't accidentally break things, but it's fairly good and it's stable. So yes, if I think like the overall reason is ESR versions are specifically targeting people that don't want to have constantly new features and don't want to constantly update. So it makes sense that if you want to experience new features, you should switch to another channel that updates more often. So it's a natural separation there. Like each version is targeted for a specific audience, for specific reasons and specific needs. And that makes sense. Anyone else wants to add anything else to
Yeah,
that?
just say that, yeah, we're not abandoning ESR at all. So but it's you're going to get security fixes, and you're mostly going to be getting bug fixes that are for stability fixes. Anything that's high impact or critical. You might not get the various like CSS fixes just to fix up some styling or something like that. But because anytime you add more code or backport code, there's a risk of regression, right? So, um, but yeah, there's really not going to be any change in how we handle ESR.
Yeah, exactly. Next question is, how stable is the beta channel? Ah, it's Fairly stable, I would say. Usually the most unstable one is the daily/nightly channel, but also that one is, I would call it the most adventurous channel if you really want to experience new things quickly. But the fact that we as core developers, we primarily work every day on the daily build, we are constantly exposed to sudden breakages. So if something breaks, usually it's fixed after a day or two. Beta releases are done, as Corey said, after 4 weeks, mostly sometimes a month, once a week. So that beta version, once a week, you get beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, beta 4, and then switch to another version number. They're fairly stable. I personally wouldn't use it in a production environment. But if you're adventurous and you want new features and you want to experience new features early, and you're not too concerned about sometimes things not working or like some features sometimes they break, it's a good way to experience things that are under development, especially because sometimes in the daily channel or beta channel, features that are not fully completed, we enable them through a preference on by default only on those channels. So even if you're on release that is once a month, the new features under construction are still disabled beyond a preference. So you don't get exposed to that. Beta channel is a little bit more loosey-goosey for us, and we enable things by default because it's an experimental thing and we want early feedback. So if you're somewhat like tech savvy or you're cool with having some breakages once in a while, please switch to the beta channel so you can give us feedback earlier and experience new cool things super early. Anyone wants to add anything else?
We can also invite crazy people to daily.
Yes, I'm the first one. Like I just only
Yeah,
use daily primarily, and it's fine. It's all right.
I'm on daily as well.
Yeah, we're all crazy in here. It's fine. Yeah, we're very adventurous rather than crazy, I would
Yeah.
say. Yes.
With the release channel, and well, first of all, daily and beta aren't for everybody, right? Especially daily. But with the release channel coming out, we do want to increase the population of the beta channel. So, um, it's the more users we can have on beta and daily, the higher quality, the more bug reports we're going to get before the code reaches the release channel. So, definitely want to increase that population.
Also just want to say that we also have a mailing list for beta users where you can give us feedback, kind of talk to other people who are testing this. And we also have some guidance on the Wiki and in KB articles for kind of how to get started with beta testing. And so we'll have some, if you're watching this video, in the resources page, we'll link you to all the things you need to get started with testing beta. Or if you want to be adventurous, I think that's a great word, how to test daily too.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the reminder of all these. Yeah, we spend a lot of times on doing these guides and gathering the mailing list, and then we give for granted that people can find them, and we forgot to link them in all our communication, in some of our communication. But yeah, that's a good reminder. Next question. These are a couple, the next two are going to be a couple of more like technically oriented questions. The first one is very interesting. We tried in the past, we kind of failed, but we would like to do it. Can I change channel through a simple update? For example, if I'm on beta, can I switch to ESR or go back to beta or switch to monthly releases and go back to beta? Corey, you want to take this also?
Yeah. So, and Wayne's actually written some documentation, knowledge base articles that maybe he wants to refer to, but yeah, you're safe to move forwards, right? So whether if you're on, let's say 128 ESR, it's safe to move forward to the release channel, which is currently 139 and can be 140 soon. Moving backwards can get more complicated because database updates and whatnot. So depending on what's been introduced since between a version and another version, moving from 139 back to 128 might not go well. So there is a command line option to allow downgrade. So if you run Thunderbird from the command line, you can do that. Just we recommend, if you're going forward or backwards, back up, your profile. So, just make sure anytime you update any software, right, obviously best practice is to have a backup.
Yeah. The core of it also is users are interested if they can change channel through a simple update directly inside the application.
Yeah, it's not available. We did discuss it, but it's especially the vast majority of our users are Windows, right? And so it's so easy just to download a new version and it'll just replace the version that you have on your, on your machine. By default, it'll install it in the same location on Windows and Mac. So in that case, it's pretty simple. Linux is a little bit more complicated, but not much more complicated. Just the fact that you tend to install on Linux. Well, there's a lot of options to install on Linux. Snaps, Flatpaks, devs, RPMs.
Yeah,
but
different location. You can have like the same version installed 5 times.
yeah, so with those, you're really kind of locked into the channel that they provide. So you're not gonna be. It is a good point to bring up because, Snaps only currently track like the ESR channel, for example. Well, I think in their stable track. So you can't change that. You can't change that to the release channel. But if you downloaded Thunderbird from thunderbird.net, then yeah, you can switch channels.
Yeah. Yeah, we experimented in the past. We have discussions on it would be nice to offer an in-app version, an in-app feature of you're on beta, upgrade to stable, or you're on ESR, upgrade to release directly inside the application. So you don't have to download, go to a website, replace and make sure that it installs in the same directory, your profile works. Yeah, as Corey said, it's kind of complicated. And if you don't do it perfectly, it can go absolutely wrong. So the extra step of the users manually downloading, it kind of forces the users you should back up your things and you should make sure that before you overwrite a current installation, safeguard with a couple of things. If it's done in-app, is much more immediate, and if something goes wrong, it's absolutely terrible. So yeah, we'll continue exploring this if something happens and we can make it easier to switch channels so users can test things, and then we will love to support it. Next question is related to add-ons. Now that we are pushing for the new release channel, monthly releases, some add-ons developers or some users that consume add-ons are concerned about add-on support, especially during ESR. In the past, with ESR releases, an add-ons developer needed mostly to update their add-ons once a year-ish to support the new version. Now with the monthly releases, things can change quite drastically. New API, old APIs, supporting or not supporting web experiment or mail experiment through the mail extensions API. The question is, what should I do if my add-on isn't working on ESR or on release? Like, how do I upgrade? Do I stop upgrading and not using my add-ons? Is there any safeguard around there? All right. So first of all, we have been working for the past month or two on a add-ons compatibility detection.
I can take this, and then if Toby and Corey can fill in any missing spots. So for quite a long time, actually, we've had a database that tracks what add-ons are compatible with what versions on which channel. And as Alex said, we formalized that because we offered to users the opportunity to change to release. And that opportunity was conditioned on users who are Windows and Mac and who do not have add-ons that might be incompatible. But you can manually check this yourself by installing the compatibility checker. And if you go to Tools, Add-ons, and Extensions, that particular add-on will be the first in the list in the recommendations. But you can also search for it by just typing in compatibility and installing it, and it will tell you whether any add-ons you currently have installed are compatible with the release channel or the beta channel, depending on what you currently have installed. Very handy. And we're continuing to improve that.
Yeah, there's never a clear-cut answer on add-ons compatibility. We try to support as much as possible the add-ons developers. We try to always offer core APIs, mail extension APIs that are much more stable than using a web experiment that might break quite frequently especially with the new release channel. But sometimes we absolutely understand we're not making it a fault. Supporting an add-on, especially when you get a lot of users and features requests and bug reports, is difficult for an add-on developer that's not their primary job, or that they have a job, they're busy doing other things. So in most cases, we try to look at the numbers of users. If an add-on is largely used, and the core developer is not maintaining it anymore, we try to take it on and continue to maintain it, or maybe integrate the features that make sense into core, try to continue supporting that add-on, or we try to offer alternatives and find other add-ons. We offer support to add-on developers with documentation and helping them fixes. John does a community add-ons meetings, I think it's like once every 2 weeks. We have a matrix room for add-ons developers. So we have some sort of control-ish on add-ons on add-ons for Thunderbird, but it's mostly the compatibility and the guarantee that it's going to work for ESR, the next version of ESR, or the new release channels. It's mostly up to the add-ons developers. And we don't really feel comfortable in just taking over. It's like, you need to update it, otherwise we're going to do it for you, like aggressively. We try to support them as much as possible and guarantee an easy upgrade path. But yeah, it's mostly up to the individual. So as Wayne said, use the compatibility check for add-ons to ensure that before you upgrade, things are good. If you really want to upgrade, especially if the add-ons is not a deal breaker, we recommend to disable your add-ons, do the upgrade, and then enable it one by one and see what kind of features you can live without temporarily, and maybe find alternatives. But yeah, these are the things about add-ons.
And it's worth noting that the compatibility checker and the add-on panel in Thunderbird will show you if there are add-ons which are which will replace ones which are not compatible with ones which are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very handy. Nice. All right. Now the other question related to the next ESR is what are the highlights of ESR 140? So if you're on release channel, monthly releases, you already are enjoying all the benefits of the new cool features. Of course, we're going to have like some splashy marketing things and new updates, what's new pages, things like that. So we don't want to spill the beans on all the new things that are in ESR. You can find them very easily, of course, but maybe we can mention a couple that we're very excited about it. The first one, personally, I'm very excited about native notification actions. Finally, we don't use any more custom notifications for your messages, but we leverage the operating systems, and they're all compatible for Windows, macOS, and Linux. And when you get a notification on your email, we show the buttons, action buttons. You can finally archive, delete, mark as read, reply directly from the notification of your operating system. And in the settings, you can control those actions. You can enable and disable the actions that you want and you don't want. This has been a long time coming. I'm so pumped. I always wanted this. I felt like this especially was one of the primary weak point of Thunderbird in macOS against Apple Mail, the integration with the native notifications. What else? Anyone wants to mention something from things that we're going to release in ESR that they're very excited about? No?
Dark mode. Dark mode's fun.
Dark mode? Yeah. Dark message mode. Finally, in 2025, we can style messages in dark. So yeah, like we always had the capacity to do that. So when you're in dark mode in Thunderbird on your operating system, the entire interface turns dark. But if you receive a message that is HTML styled and has a white background, you get slapped in the face with this giant bright white screen. Now we detect that and we do some funny and interesting JavaScript calculation for threshold luminosity and accessibility and readability between foreground and background colors. And if those don't work in dark mode, we clear the custom style, or we flip the color, we apply something that matches more dark mode. It's easily toggleable. We show a toggle in the header. If something goes wrong, if an email is rendering properly in dark mode, you can quickly disable it to properly read it. The worst emails out there, and I'm going to just say it, are from LinkedIn. Oh my God, whoever built LinkedIn emails, shame on you. What the hell you were thinking? It's just like nested layer of HTML with inline styles or global CSS styles with important tags everywhere. Absolutely awful. But yeah, we had this feature enabled in beta for almost like 6-7 months. Now it's enabled by default on releases. So we didn't get many bug reports. We only got a couple and we fixed those. But yeah, very excited about that.
I'll
Yeah.
add something also.
Go for it.
But mainly to point out that the things that are coming in ESR 140 are also available in Release 140. So all the things that you see in eventually in the release notes of ESR 140 are many of them will be new also in Release 140. And the one I'm really keen on is the appearances section and settings, because it's a common bug report and user support thing and a pain point for users that they can't globally control the layout of their folders when they change to different folders. They would like them all to be the same, and right now currently it's per folder. Now in appearances section you'll have global controls and centralized ability to change things.
Yeah, I'm very proud of that because I originally built that, and then Martin finalized it. That was a 14 years old feature request or something like that. Now we have the technology to do it finally. Yeah. Took a while, but yeah, no, it's very good, and that's an initial glimpse of something that we're gonna focus on next year. Is the reorganization of the settings. We have like so many settings. A lot of the features are only available through developers tools in the config editor. They're not exposed to the UI, and even if they're exposed, they're difficult to find. We need to better organize our settings and expose things faster and allow users to find them more easily so they can fully control the most powerful email client out there, just on the burgers. All righty. We are at the end of the list of questions related to ESR. Anyone has any questions or wants to add anything? Pretty chill. All right. Before we conclude this wonderful session, I want to give a couple of shout out to our community contributors. The first one is T. Lawrence. He's currently working on a patch to make the calendar grid touch enabled. We talked a little bit of the request that users have sometimes to use Thunderbird on a Linux touch enabled device or a Windows touch enabled device. And it doesn't really support touch and things like that. But yeah, we have a community contributor that submitted a patch for the calendar grid. We're currently reviewing it. It's a little bit tricky because we have a lot of mouse interaction, especially in the calendar, and the touch interaction sometimes supersede mouse interaction. So we need to make sure that things are not broken and things like that. But it's lovely to see community members hearing that, yeah, we would like to do it, but it's not our focus right now. So they do it, and it's beautiful. That's the magic of open source. And another shout out I would like to give is to the entirety of the Thunderbird community support channel in Matrix. Especially, I saw in the last couple of days, we had like new people coming in and they wanted to set up their own email server with their own filters and things like that. And a lot of people jump in and started giving suggestions and technical recommendations and sharing tutorials. So it's not just about Thunderbird and how to use Thunderbird, but it's more generic, supporting each other in our quest to step away from the evil overlord of everything else that is out there. But yeah, thank you. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining. Thank you for participating. Thank you for all the people that spoke and helped me to go through this list of very interesting questions. And yes, I'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Enjoy the rest of your day.